Welcome again to another edition of the Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Norm Waymer. This is Big John Malkowski. This is Mortgage Marty Ben, who will help guide us through the next half hour of your sports talk pleasure.
I thought my job was to run it off the tracks into the weeds while you guys tried to steer it back on the track. I get so confused as to my role.
As you just did. Congratulations.
Oh, okay. It's my role.
You're good at it.
Yeah, I'm exceptional.
Inside the first 30 seconds.
Yes. Well, it felt like you dared me to do that.
Say hi to your mom. She's up.
Yes, Mom, I'm on this week. I know I'm supposed to tell you when I'm not on now so you don't stay up. Yes. Love you.
All right, let's get after it. Let's start with a significant retirement in high school athletics. Ed Heintzel has decided to finally hang him up.
Well, it's only 40 years. I mean, come on.
I don't want it to say like,
are you hanging up the Chuck Taylor All-Stars?
I'm not saying that.
Because you hang up the cleats in football, so what do you hang up in basketball?
Well, the whistle, I think, when you're a coach.
That's just more than 40 years would be more than I could take.
Well, and he even
That's what I'm.
He even said that. He said he planned on teaching for a couple of years and moving on, and the Jesuits kind of sucked him in, and 40 years later,
here we are.
And I mean, he's been around so long. When I was there, he had already been there 12, 13 years. And that's when I was in high school. And
I was going to say, as a St. Francis graduate, I already disliked him before I went to St. Francis.
And he was a St. Francis guy, too.
I know.
But, when I was in high school, Ed was he was almost scary. I mean, he was just this figure that, led the basketball team, and he was always fiery, and when you saw him on games. Now that I've known him for the last 5 years doing radio, the guy's the best. I mean, he's just a great guy. And everything he's done for us on radio, for Jack, for Willie, who are both student managers, my sons, it's amazing. And I couldn't ask for a better guy for them to have worked for.
It's a perfect example of why you shouldn't think you know somebody until you meet them, until you actually get to know them.
Well, and granted, I was 14 years old, and I wasn't good enough to play on the basketball team.
But if you were an opponent, you probably didn't like him because he won most of the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
725 wins.
4th all-time in the state of Ohio. The only guy to do it at one school. Nobody else has won 700 games at one school.
I'm not, when we were texting about this earlier, I think, it's interesting because there's always been one knock, and I think the other side that doesn't get celebrated enough, besides the wins, is in my lifetime, I think of how many young men he has helped achieve the next level of success and long-term success. And I think sometimes we talk too much about wins and losses and not about the impact on young men's lives and having them go to college and play at the next level and be successful. And that's
the true legacy of a coach.
It's not easy. I think it's easier to win than it is to long-term impact people's lives. And the one thing that whatever you would say about him that you can't knock is that he has done a tremendous job of helping a huge number of young men achieve success, not just in college, but in life at the next level because of the impact he's had on their lives.
Well, and the one that sticks out to me, and I mean, we all know the Mark Lovings and B.J. Raymond and Zach Hilsel and all those guys, but the one that stands out to me actually is still in college, and that's Keith Jordan, who is at Siena Heights. He played JV as a junior at St. John's. Didn't, dress varsity, but played JV. Ed coached him up. His athleticism was ridiculous. He was named All-American Honorable Mention this year at Siena Heights, and he played JV as a junior at St. John's. And those are the kind of guys that Ed had, that he took and that he molded. And it kind of, the one big negative is that he never won the big one.
Right. Well, I think I told you before the show, when we were texting about it, I thought, I feel bad because it's almost like the Dan Marino situation, right? Where, you cannot argue the career, you cannot argue the legacy, you cannot argue the lifetime stats, but that's the Dan Marino situation. And I almost think of him as our local Dan Marino.
It's just bad luck. Well, it is.
And it actually shines a light even brighter on 2 years ago when Vince Williams and Houston King were here. Vince hurt his shoulder. He separated his shoulder out in a tournament in San Diego. and he was never 100% the rest of the year. Had to play with a wrap on and a brace, and that probably cost us at least a trip to Columbus, if not more. And
that team was.
I mean,
my oldest played with those young men the whole time, and he went there at the junior high level, and that team was absolutely loaded.
Oh, absolutely.
And if they were all healthy, it was hard to imagine them not being right there with a shot at the whole thing.
Yeah, Tim and I went down to Fort Myers one year when they did a holiday tournament down there, and there were all kinds of future NBA guys in that tournament, and that was when they had Raymond and Hillsland and Roberts and all that. I think probably their best team.
Well, and that's one thing that Ed never shied away from competition.
No, because what it did was it made his guys better come tournament time.
Right. I mean, there's some teams around the area that won't travel outside of Lucas and Wood County, but I mean, Ed played St. Ed's every year. No matter what kind of team he had, no matter what kind of team St. Ed's had, played them. I mean, the one year we had 5 losses. Xavier Simpson at Lima Senior 3 times. Cassius Winston at U of D Jesuit once. And you run up against teams like that, and the other one was Lima Central Catholic, who was undefeated that year except for a loss to Lima Senior.
Well, kids can get in their little bubble here, and think that they're a bigger fish than they really are. And then when you take them to a tournament like that, you really get to see how big the pond is.
Oh, yeah.
We spent a lot of time last fall and winter, I know we talked about it on the air, but talking about the state polling and shaking our heads at the rankings all year and saying, but they haven't beat anybody, they haven't played anybody. I mean, to me, his mindset was almost like the Tom Izzo does at Michigan State every year, where that preseason schedule is brutal. But so they may have a few extra losses, but talk about battle tested.
Yeah,
you know what they're going to do.
B.J. Raymond had to guard Glenn Davis, big baby.
Well,
and by the time that tournament was over, he was a lot tougher player.
Well, and the tournament they went to in San Diego, their opening game was against Sharif O'Neal, Shaq's son, and Cedric Ceballos' son was also on that team. I mean, you're playing against guys who are going to UCLA and Oakland, Oregon and Kansas. You don't see that in Northwest Ohio. That's why we didn't. Right. He didn't shy away from playing Moeller and those guys.
In all the St. John's games that we did, he was so generous with his time. He would always give us whatever we needed, time-wise. And you know what? One of the things that gets overlooked, I think, is how many hours somebody like that puts in on a weekly basis. Huh. He also used to drive the bus.
Yep.
I don't know too many high school coaches that would drive the bus.
Well, John and I can personally attest, if you're a coach and a teacher at a Catholic school in this area, you have to do a little bit of everything. You may be mopping floors and washing out shower. Who knows, because there's not a lot of extra people, and there are no prima donnas in Catholic coaching.
But his legacy are his players, and it's one heck of a legacy, to say the least. Congratulations, Coach, from the bottom of our hearts for one incredible career. Let's take a time out. We'll come back. We'll talk some more. We'll get a little surprise. We got a little surprise on a coaching change. We'll talk about that more when we come back. It's Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Mortgage Marty here. It's spring buying season's right around the corner. In fact, now is the best time to get started. Gives us a little lead time. If there's things we need to tweak, we can get on it right away. Remember, those credit inquiries don't affect your score any more than they will if you check later. So one inquiry, whether it's now and then again in the spring, still only counts as one, won't hurt your score. We helped 3 customers this week improve their score by an average of 30 points. So reach out now. Let's get that started. 419-461-0667 or marty.bin, B-I-H-N, at fairwaymc.com.
Powerbomb Wrestling is back in Toledo coming up on Sunday, June the 2nd, St. Clements Hall, 2990 Tremainsville in Toledo. Doors will open at 4:15, bell time at 5. It is June Justice, and you will see the champion Brandon Day defend his title. Also, a no DQ, no count out for the tag team titles. Andy Shane against Man Fulton and more. It's Sunday, June the 2nd, St. Clements Hall in Toledo.
And welcome back for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's, Toledo's only sports talk and broadcast TV. This is it. Ralphie's.
So
let's not forget Ralphie's.
So I want to
My
preface.
home away from home.
I want to preface what we're about to talk about by saying that I think had John Beeline stayed 2 more years, they might have named the court after him. And instead he decides to go coach in Cleveland. So what I wonder is, has anybody done a blood alcohol level test for him to determine whether or not that was there was something else involved? Because I cannot explain what we're about to talk about. I cannot wrap my head around it.
Can anybody explain that? The lure of the NBA to some of these college coaches?
I mean, he's 66 years old. He's had success all the way from junior high school up to.
I can explain Morgantown to Ann Arbor. I can explain that one. I got nothing for you here.
And I never saw the numbers. I mean, my week has just been ridiculous. I never saw how much he's going to make. I assume that's A1. But
you're saying if he stays 5 more years, there's not some assistant AD lifetime job until they literally, park you permanently.
Like he probably needs it now.
I'm just saying. I can't. I don't, because it's not obscene money the Cavs are throwing at him. It's not John Gruden to the Raiders money.
Don't be jealous
of John. I can be jealous of John. I'm not jealous of the Raiders' decision. I still shake my head at it, but that's a whole separate conversation.
You might be at some point.
Maybe.
The funniest one that I saw is that
8-8. Anyway,
the funniest one that I saw is that Dan Gilbert's a Michigan State guy.
Yes.
So his thinking was, okay, how do I hurt our opponent? My big.
How do I help
rival?
How do I help Izzo? Because Michigan's been in the Final Four way too much.
So you take away their coach. I mean, John Beeline has done.
That's the first semi-logical explanation for this I've heard.
Well, I got another one.
Okay, go ahead.
Because it's my dream job. Although,
so he can get fired after 2 years and start collecting his paycheck.
Sign a 5-year deal, get fired after about a year and a half. Spend the next 3.5 years going, hello, check.
So I actually think your dream job is what Bryce Harper's currently doing. Getting $300 million to bet 2 1/4.
I would have played baseball for a lot less than that.
Heck yeah.
I just can't explain this one. I'm sorry. I've tried to wrap my head around it. I got nothing.
I don't know.
Where's recruiting at for them? Was it going to take a downturn or?
3 guys left early, 2 of which I don't think should have. I mean, Jordan Poole is not even going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds from what I've seen. Brosdakis probably will be, but very late. I mean, he was losing the core of that team. But he's always built this team. He's built all of his teams without 5-star guys, without Brosdakis, I think, is their first one and done that he's had anywhere. And he always built these teams with not underachieving guys, but guys who weren't he never had a Zion Williamson or
or anyone from Kentucky,
Kevin Durant, or anybody that he never even tried to recruit guys that went to Kentucky and Duke and all those.
Well, he's not going to get a Zion Williamson again.
Yeah, and Cavs fans, it wasn't rigged, okay?
Knicks fans are just as upset about
I started that on Twitter. I started hammering that. When it came down to the Final Four, one was the Knicks and one was the Lakers, I'm like, fixed. And then they got 3 and 2 or 3 and 4, so they didn't even get. Neither one got in the top 2. I thought for sure it was going to end up being either the Knicks or the Lakers.
And our favorite screamer talking head from Sports Talk,
Screaming A. Smith. He spent the first 40 minutes today.
Yeah, he claims that they gave the number 1 and 2 picks to the lowest producing franchises to boost them up, and gave 3 and 4 to the Lakers and Knicks to make them better because you need them to be better. And I'm like, in this day and age with social media, with TMZ, you cannot rig something like that without it getting out. Because if more than if more than 2 people know about something, one of them's going to go sell their story to TMZ
Depends
or
how much
something.
money you give them. But
Well, there's enough out there.
Plenty to get that story.
I mean, how'd Kareem Hunt get out there?
I got a price.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a joke that goes with that. Now we've established what you are. The only negotiation is price.
Nobody's going to beat it. But I got one.
Yeah, quote the $1 Million Man.
The Zion Williamson going to go to New Orleans.
Norland, and he did not look happy about that. They had to whisk him off the stage.
I said last night they should have just had New Orleans go up, already have a jersey made with his name on it, and okay, #1 pick, we take Zion, you're on the clock.
The girlfriend who used to go to the Boston Garden and watch the Celtics said, when did New Orleans get a team?
Well, Anthony Davis is wondering that himself.
He still wants to leave, apparently.
How do you backtrack from where you were?
Well, maybe they can trade him to Memphis for the #2 pick, and then they can have Zion and Ja Morant and build from there. I don't know if you're going to get a better deal.
Who knows? This offseason in the NBA is going to be wild.
Well, the question for me is, how can they make the NBA more competitive? Because it's not. It's so top heavy, it's ridiculous.
Well, the only way the NBA can fix this right now is if they hire Mueller to do the collusion
I mean, it's
investigation.
only been in the news for like what, 2 years. So Mueller.
I butchered it.
I hear Congress people calling him Mueller.
That's
It's
why
like, where have you been for the last 2 years?
Well, the one guy made it sound like it was Ferris Bueller, which is why it cracks me up that we can't get that right. But you're going to need the Mueller report after this year because there's going to be so much. I mean, LeBron's already going and sitting around and visiting people. Whatever. I mean, don't give me the no collusion because they're all colluding. And until that gets fixed, you're gonna be top heavy all the time.
Well, because like if you're New Orleans, how do you build? How do you build a winner?
Oh, you've got him for 3 years. Then you got to decide when he's 21 years old whether you're going to give him $50 million a year to give him a max contract.
And if you're Houston, how do you not ritually sacrifice yourself when KD goes down when you have a chance to win the whole thing and still can't eke that series out?
And you have to trade Anthony Davis because he'll just walk away otherwise.
Nope.
My shoulder hurts.
Yep, shut it down like you did this year.
Well, no, Kawhi. He can Kawhi the last year of his contract if he wants to. That's a verb now. You can Kawhi it because Kawhi successfully, my doctor says I'm not quite cleared yet.
And he's pretty good now. And
does it hurt? Oh, I can do that for $26 million guaranteed.
Just smacks of soccer.
Yes.
No, that's the Houston Rockets.
Oh, yes.
But they got to figure out something with competitive balance because
it's always the same.
Yes, I can jump into you while you're stationary, but because you were in my personal space, somehow I get to shoot 3 free throws or get a 4-point play if it goes in.
The only team that has ever built is the Warriors, and that's because they drafted. None of those guys were top 5 picks. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
Well, Klay was a higher pick than any of them, and they didn't draft him. Klay started elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were smart in picking him up in a deal, and I mean,
no other sport do you get the number 5 pick in the draft. And all Cavs fans last night, because I unfortunately had to sit by a couple of them.
Well, earlier in the week.
Sorry.
Here's my thing, Cavs fans.
Bro.
I have 2 words to say to you about how upset you are. Anthony Bennett.
We have to take a break.
I think he's playing in Turkey.
We'll come back. More of this fun when we come back. It's for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer. A shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
We're Mortgage Marty here. It's spring buying season's right around the corner. In fact, now is the best time to get started. Gives us a little lead time. If there's things we need to tweak, we can get on it right away. Remember, those credit inquiries don't affect your score any more than they will if you check later. So one inquiry, whether it's now and then again in the spring, still only counts as one, won't hurt your score. We helped 3 customers this week improve their score by an average of 30 points. So reach out now. Let's get that started. 419-461-0667 or marty.bin, B-I-H-N, at fairwaymc.com.
Powerbomb Wrestling is back in Toledo coming up on Sunday, June the 2nd, St. Clements Hall, 2990 Tremainsville in Toledo. Doors will open at 4:15, bell time at 5. It is June Justice, and you will see the champion Brandon Day defend his title. Also, a no DQ, no count out for the tag team titles. Andy Shane against Man Fulton and more. It's Sunday, June the 2nd, St. Clements Hall in Toledo.
All right, welcome back. Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. This is going to be just our complaining segment.
So explain to me, we're talking about, there's no explanation for Beeline. Explain to me what the heck the Jets are doing. You fire your front office staff
3 weeks
after the draft, and then give a coach who got run out of Miami because he stunk total AD power in the meantime. What is going on? I mean, what is in the water? Please, people.
GM, not
yes. Sorry, AD. We were talking high school earlier. I get so confused. Maybe they need to test the water in New York like they did in Flint, because something's going on there that makes things crazy happen.
Well, maybe it's the whole NFL. I mean, you brought up during the break, Cliff Kingsbury can't even win at a Big 12 school.
Does Jerry Jones have a son that owns the Jets?
That was fair. I deserve that from earlier. I acknowledge that was fair. No, he has a son that's going to own the Cowboys, which may be worse.
Supposedly they're complaining about the money they paid Le'Veon Bell. And then Bell didn't even make what he got offered supposedly before anyway.
The owner doesn't have veto power over that?
I would think.
But how dysfunctional do you have to be that in the middle of May you're getting rid of your GM? Please, someone help me with this.
After the draft.
It screams of we have no clue what we're doing.
Nope.
It almost makes keeping Dave Gettleman look rational, which is what I'm saying is going on the other side of the stadium. Because I can't explain what they're doing.
No. One team should have fired their GM and one team.
Yes, the team that should have fired the DM after the draft going, you spent what first round stock on that pick that you could have traded back and got mid-second round? You're gone. That would have made sense to me this week. I have no idea what's going on in New York.
How would you like those two teams? Being a New York fan.
Nobody's a fan of both of those.
And the Knicks.
It's either Yankees, Giants.
Because if you're a New York sports fan right now, you have to be like before bed. You have to be crossing yourself, going, "Please, AD and Kyrie, or please, KD and Kyrie, come here, please, please, please." Because the only hope we have is that they collude and decide all to go play in Madison Square Garden next year. Because otherwise, it's more misery for a long time.
And it's not like Nolan's a peach of any owner either. I mean, he's just as messed up as the other ones are.
It's a good thing what's his name from the Clippers is gone, because he's the only thing that made everyone not hate James Dolan worse. What was his name? I can't think of it.
Donald Sterling.
Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
Let's not think of Donald Sterling.
Well, why do we not hate Bob? Or why do we not hate James Dolan worse? Because there was a Donald Sterling.
All right, I'm still hashtagging on Twitter free Casey Mize. Because if I got to watch more of this,
Ryan Carpenter.
Oh God. Gregory Soto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Father, for I've said.
Reininger. If I got to watch more of this.
Well, the problem is that 2 of the top prospects who are in Toledo are hurt. Kyle Funkhauser and Bo Burrows are both hurt, and they don't want to rush these guys in the middle of a rebuild.
See, now, and here's my complaint about rushing guys. You saw Dwight Gooden at 19 get called up, win the Cy Young Award. I think rushing guys is the most overused cliche that doesn't matter that I've ever seen in my life. I think it's so overdone. I don't think it really exists. I think when a guy's ready. I mean, you don't have any doubt that if they brought Casey Mize up, he would pitch better than Carpenter and Soto. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't think
Soto's like what, the fourth or fifth guy on the double-A
Here, yeah.
rotation.
I don't think you could get anybody to take the other side of that wager. like you could not get any. I don't think you could get guys that never watch a baseball game to take the other side of that wager. That's how obvious it is. And when you're talking about rushing guys, the part that kills me is, what are you rushing them for? As long as you keep them on a reasonable pitch count and then don't okay, so maybe they don't make every fifth start. Maybe you put them on a different rotation. If you're worried about wear and tear because of their youth or whatever, because they're not used to that many innings, there's a way to monitor that. It's been done a lot.
Well, yeah, you could bring up Soto for a spot start or Carpenter or one of those guys.
Right. I'm with you. What are we rushing?
Well, and at this point, I mean, they're already talking about going to bullpen games.
You know, I'm not saying you take a kid out of high school and you rush him to the majors. I'm not talking about that.
Why is that a real term that we're using now?
Although nobody complained about rushing Al Kaline to the majors.
Well, yeah, but he had to.
Bob Horner to the majors.
Well, Al Kaline was a bonus baby. Back then the rules were different.
Well, but or 3 or 4 people in the last couple of years.
Or Jerry Bonderman.
How old's Guerrero?
10 years ago. Vlad's 20.
20.
Okay. Okay.
Just turned 20.
So he's got the extra 2 months on these guys.
Juan Soto was 19 last year.
How old was Acuna last year?
20.
Okay. So apparently rushing's not the worst thing in the world.
I think it's different for a position player than a.
Right, because they have to play every day.
Well, no, but
It is, but Mize was a college pitcher.
right.
Yeah, correct. He's not that.
No,
And Manning's older than Mize.
yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm just stating what I think the Tigers are going to do.
Oh, I know what they're doing and why they're doing it, but I don't agree with it. Because at the same
You know
time,
how hard it is
you
for me to do this on this show. I'm totally enormous.
don't you owe something to your fans to give them something to watch? I get texts from Benson. It's tough watching these guys, or it's no fun watching the Tigers. I'm like, well, I can't argue with you.
He's being way too kind.
He always is.
I've been watching the NBA playoffs because it's the only alternative, and it's better than that. Like the NBA playoffs are better than watching the current product.
I'll watch all my wife's murder shows and rather than watch the NBA playoffs.
So next week we're going to handicap The Bachelor with John because Monday night.
That's not a murder show. I draw a line somewhere.
but they'll say like, oh, they rushed Bonderman to the majors. Well, Bonderman just wasn't real good. You know, it had nothing to do with rushing him to the majors.
So the only reason you're not going to rush him to the majors is because they'll get exposed and then you can't trade him as the number 2 prospect or whatever, right? The only reason rushing him to the majors has a consequence is if you're planning on unloading them in a trade package.
No, it's because you start their service time and then you get one less year of them on the back end.
We all know the truth, but at the end of the day.
Because I don't think Casey Mize sees Detroit.
But if you study analytics, you'll know that after a player reaches 30, it starts the downhill progression. So the clock's ticking whether you want to sit on a guy or not. So you want to push that clock back so then he'll hit 30 even faster in the majors. I guess you could do that. So we're about done.
Good show today.
Yes. And if any of you have any explanation for what just happened with Beeline or the Jets' decisions or why Dave Gettleman still has a job, you know how to find me because I can't explain any of it.
And if you want to help sponsor this show, get a hold of me, Facebook, Twitter. If you have my number, call me. Otherwise, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get everything, including Powerbomb Wrestling, which comes your way on this station at 2 a.m. We'll see you next week here on the Front Row Roundtable Show, presented by Ralphie's.